Hey all, Stephanie from Stephanie B Creativity here, and today we're going to make my camping sweater. And I am really excited because this yarn is just yummy. It makes me think of camping. It makes me, with all these little neeps that are in the yarn, it has a very rustic kind of look, but it's super soft. And I am going to do a basic cardigan sweater on my 48 needle Sentro knitting machine. I am doing the sleeve first because I can show you all of the skills you need to make everything from the ribbing all the way to the binding the edge off. We're going to go all the way through on the one piece, and then I'm going to make a second sleeve and the two long panels. Now the sleeve does have a tiny bit of an advanced technique, but it's not hard. Really and truly, it's just advanced because people don't talk about it. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Really cool technique. Once you learn how to make panels and how to do increases, the world is your oyster. You can make anything on these machines. So we're going to start off with waste yarn. And I'm going to put on 35 stitches. Now when I do panels, I do not go into panel mode, and it's exactly for this reason of doing the increases. If you are in panel mode, it stops you right here. You can't go any farther back. So and when I'm increasing on both sides. So I'm going to be growing a couple stitches this direction, and the panel mode won't let me do that. So I work in tube mode, the T on my machine right here. I always leave it in the T. So I'm going to do a standard back and forth cast on for 35 stitches. And this is going to be the cuff. So we're starting at this bottom edge. All right, I put a little mark on my tab right here so that I know where the end of my row is, and so then I don't have to fuss about figuring it out. Now I'm going to go back. The trickiest things with the panel is all you have to do is make sure you go one full needle past the last stitch that you want on your panel, and then work your way back. Now when you get to the end, sometimes the stitch won't drop, and you just have to make it drop. Just slide it down. One needle past, come back, and I'm just going to do 4 or 5 rows. This one, you don't have to worry about it unraveling. And then I'm just going to cut my waste yarn off. Now, I am not going to go straight to my working yarn. I am going to put an extra piece of waste yarn in that's a single strand. By adding this piece, you're going to be able to take the casting yarn off just by pulling that red string. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab that big twist yarn. I am going to do 8 rows. On here it's going to say I'm going to be on 9 or 10. Just so long as you are consistent, it doesn't really matter how deep you want your ribbing to be. So this is one of the sleeves. And I'm showing you the second sleeve. Okay, so this is the ribbing, And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9. I'll meet you back here when I'm ready to do the ribbing. Just going to knit normally on the first two. On this third needle, I am going to pop it out from under those fingers. There. Lift the loop off and come down here to my zip strip. You see how I pinch that? That's how I keep track of that loop. Then 1, 2, whoops, 3, 4, 5. Oops. Don't split your stitches. Make sure that when you're working your ribbing, you don't split the yarn. It's really easy to do that, so just be careful and move ahead. So skip, skip, and then I'm going to rib this one. So skip, skip, and rib. What that does is it gives us a lovely, on the right side, it gives us a lovely 2 knits and 1 purl type of rib on the other side. But this gives you the same effect for half the work, because you only have to do 1 column of ribbing every 3 needles. One, 2, and 3. Pinch right here and stretch. Put your crochet hook in. You're going underneath and pulling through, underneath and pulling through, and that's how you're making your knit stitch. Looks like a column of chains going up. There. And then I just use the crochet hook to drop it back over the needle. All right, I'm going to meet you back here when I've gotten all the way to the end, and then we will knit. Then I'm going to knit until I'm at row 37, and then we'll do an increase. I am going to increase 1 stitch on each side. I'll show you. It is so easy. Don't be afraid. If you're increasing just by 1 stitch, you never have to do any funny stuff to make it work. Very gradual difference. We're at 35 down here, and we're at 41 up here. So it's just a gradual increase to make it so that you have room for your upper arm. If you need more room, add another, in between, add some more increases up until you can't increase anymore on your machine. Your machine will let you know. To increase a stitch, all I'm going to do is stitch 1 more needle. So that means that I have to go 2 needles past my edge, and now I have just cast on a new stitch on this edge. Work all the way across. Work 1, 2, right there. Okay, now you can go back and you have just cast on a stitch on the other side. Twenty-eight rounds, 28 rows. Basically, I needed to work another 10 rows. Work another 10 rows. And you can see where that stitch is a little bit loose right there. That was my cast on. So now I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I need to go down and back one more time to get 10. Down. Oops. And back. And now I'm going to increase another stitch. So I'm going to go one needle past to that next needle past until it's all the way dropped down there. And we have now cast on an increase on this edge. All the way back. Past this stitch. 1, 2, and then come back. And remember, sometimes this stitch lifts, so just push it back down. So 10. All right, down and back. Increase 1. Increase 1. And now we're going to just keep knitting until we hit 85. And then we will cast off. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to take and drop a nice amount, you know, of yarn down in here, because I'm going to use that yarn to do my bind off. So let that go. Then we are going to cast off with waste yarn. Just pop it off those needles. Just be gentle. Don't tug. And you'll be fine. Sometimes you need to see that people who do this a lot still have this problem. There we go. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way. So you're going to need your crochet hook. And we're going to go to that, to the very first stitch here. On the edge here, that's where the main yarn's coming off of. I'm going to put my crochet hook in, wrap my yarn over, and pull through. Then I'm going to go into the next loop right here, because I've already locked this first one right there down. I'm going to go from under the loop, pick up the yarn, pull it through. Now I have 2 loops on my hook, wrap over and pull through. We are going to do a single crochet all the way across. So it's put the yarn, put the needle through the loop, front to back. Lay your yarn over it, pull it through. So now you have 2 loops, wrap over and pull through. The reason for doing this versus a slip stitch is that it gives you stretch. It allows it to stretch, and you want to be able to stretch. You don't want it to be a hard line of yarn around your wrist or around your shoulder. And this is the shoulder edge, so I just want to make sure that this can stretch. So I'm just going to go across just like that. One of the reasons for using obnoxiously different colors is that it's very easy to see the very top stitch. You see how this stitch right here is circled by the waste yarn? That's my stitch. Top stitch here. I'm just going to work my way all the way down. If you use something that's too close in color, you can get confused on which is the stitch from the main yarn and which is the stitch from your waste yarn. So always use a different color, brightly different color. Lots of contrast. It makes it so much easier. You see how quickly this moves along though. I am not pulling tight. This is a very loose. See, I'm just sort of guiding that thread across my hand like this. So my finger is wrapped around it, and I'm just pressing the yarn against my working area here. There we go. Almost done with that. And then we can take that waste yarn off. That's one of the most fun things, right? Taking the waste yarn off. So I will show you taking the waste yarn off this end. The cast off edge is real easy. You can just unravel your yarn. The cast on edge, where we put that extra little secondary line, that one, if you don't have that second line, you have to unpick all of that cast on, and it is a pain. You know, the cast on waste yarn, if you don't put that extra line in there, you have to unpick everything to get it out. So definitely use that. But I'm going to finish right here. Have one more stitch after. Always go, see how there's this one last twisted stitch at the edge? I always go through that also, because that just gives me a really good locking place. And then make a single chain. And I am going to just pull this yarn through, because I can use this for stitching up the sleeve or stitching around to stitch the sleeve on. So here we go. This is, let's see, where's the end? There it is. Here, I'll just bunch it up so you can see it. Boop, boop, boop. And when you've got a really long piece like this, it works really well to keep it for the next, your next waste yarn needed project. So that is what our edge looks like. And it's so easy to stitch this now to the sleeve. And do you see from the outside? You can't even tell that that was crocheted. Look at that. It just blends right in with all of your stitches. Now at the other edge, this is, I did not leave a lot of yarn, and I'm going to make my loop. And you want to work from the inside. It's just, at least for me, I like to work from the inside because I want to see where those bars are. Because on this one, we have 3 colors going on, right? You've got your main color, you've got your last waste yarn, and you have your first waste yarn, right? What you're going to want to do is go down here to the area where your main color is between the waste yarn and the second waste yarn and the first waste yarn. So I am going to grab, I made a slip knot. A slip knot, you just wrap it around your fingers and poke it through. And now you've got a slip knot. Let's do single crochet now. Go in the loop, grab it, wrap over, pull through. In the loop, grab it, wrap over, pull through. In that loop, in that loop. There we go. It's that easy. And you finish all of your pieces exactly the same way. I'm not going to show you finishing the front and back panels or the long panels because that's not necessary. You're seeing exactly how to finish all your edges. And you see how this is stretchy. Oh, make sure you don't split your yarn. There you go. I will show you doing the ribbing on the long panel because one end is exactly the same as the sleeve, but the other end you have to put a guide strip in. It's kind of like putting this zip strip, except that it doesn't take your waste yarn off. It leads you to the point where you can do your ribbing on the other end when you've got all of that yarn, all of that knitting done, and you want to do the ribbing. You need to have, well, you don't have to, but for me, I need to have a place that is consistent to drop my stitches to. And that's what making my guideline does. And there we go. We are almost done with that. We want to go, we've got see, I've got this one, that one, and through the edge. The other thing is with this zip strip is that you have to make sure that it's not all knitted in. There we go. You want it to be untangled. But that's where my last stitch is that I want to go through. So I need to pull that up so I can get my needle in. Get my hook in here. There we go. And then I'm going to just pull about that much. I always cut my yarn on the ball side of my loop. That way I don't accidentally cut this off and it's really short when I wanted to cut this one. So always cut your yarn from the ball side, and that way you'll be able to pull through and you won't lose your yarn. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab this red line. I'll make sure that it's not tied in on that side. So grab this red line and we're going to pull and pull. Okay, so it's all the way out. And now that just comes right off. Isn't that cool? All right, I'm going to get my second long strip made, and then I will show you how I seam up the back. Alrighty, we've made it to the other end. So this was the first end. This is the other end, and I don't know if it's front or back yet. But what I want to do, I'm about 8 rows before the very end, so I want to put my marking strip in again so that I can know exactly how far back I have to drop my stitches to do my ribbing. So 1 row with a marking strip. Drop that yarn. And that marking strip is only there temporarily. We will be pulling it out. Use your most obnoxious color so that you can see it easily. And now I'm going to finish to my 250 rounds or rows, and then we're going to do the ribbing the same way we've done the ribbing on everything. So on my counter, when it says 50, that means that I have to go down and back. When I go down and back, I will be at 50. So I'm going to go back to my very far end. And now I'm going to start ribbing. And I'm doing my 2 purls, 1 knit all the way around. And the reason for doing this particular marking strip, since this is at the other end and you're not just dropping all the way to the bottom of your knitting, you're dropping into the middle. So you need to mark to make it so much easier on yourself to when you drop your stitches. So I'm just going to go knit, knit, or purl, purl, since we're on the back side. We're at the first stitch that's going to get dropped. I'm using my Loom Pick to lift it up out from underneath of these fingers. Take it off of the needle. Then I go down, and where my marking line is here, I pinch. And that keeps it from going beyond that marking line. Now I can pick up my stitches. Whoopsie. Now I can pick up my stitches using my crochet hook and just walk back up, just like doing ribbing on the cuff. This ribbing is exactly the same. It's just you have that one extra step of putting the marking line in. So knitting that stitch, knit the next 2. This one pops up and it's exactly the same. So I'll meet you back here when I have both sides done and both sleeves done. So I've not blocked this or anything. So I am going to set the sleeve in like that. And the cool thing here is with having this crocheted edge, it gives me those loops that I can match up with the edges of the side here, so I can stitch and have it line up really nicely. So this gets sewn on flat across here, and then once it's folded, so once this is stitched on the side like that, then you can just stitch up the side and out the sleeve to the edge. Look at that. It's starting to look like a sweater. I'm not going to worry about showing every single little step here, but I am going to do a quick amount of the blanket stitch up the back seam. I can count, or I can just fold it in half and say it's good. And, you know, I am definitely of the fold it in half and say it's good. So I'm going to say that is the back of the neck right there. So I've already got this attached to the back one. I'm just pulling that through there. It's already attached at the back one, so I'm going to come to the front. Going back and forth, picking up the bar. That's going to be just fine. Awesome. That is going to be just fine. So just pick up the bar, back and forth. And really, that's all you have to do for any of the seams. You just go back and forth, pick up the bar, and I am stitching right through the selvage edge. So if you didn't have a nice clean selvage edge and it was really wonky, you could always do this from the outside and roll your stitches to the inside. And find a really nice column on both sides of it. Just like this. So this sweater is ending up taking me approximately 8 hours total. About 4 hours of knitting and about 4 hours of handwork, because, you know, 3 to 4 hours of handwork. Because I like to take my time and do this, do it well. You could always just, you know, whip stitch or running stitch, but the mattress stitch gives you a nice stretchy back. All of your seams then are stretchy because it's just like the knitted fabric. So there we go. So here, I'm just going to stitch that together like that. And there, see, this is where my seam is, going up the back. Right there, that's the seam. So I am really tickled with how that's coming together. So just take your time. And don't pull your stitches down tight until you know that you're staying in the same row on both sides. You know, you don't want to have to try and unpick it. It's a little bit tricky to unpick this. So I'm going to finish this up, and I'm going to finish stitching everything together, because really, you're going to be able to figure this out. Just breathe, take your time, and enjoy the process. And there we go. That's our seam right there. You can't even see it. All right, I will see you back when I have it on and I'm wearing it. And I'll show you how all the seams look. And yeah, so let's get this all put together and I'll come back and I'll share with you. All right, friends, I forgot some of my footage, so I need to just tell you about it. This is a sleeve, and this is one of the body pieces. Now, you've already seen the seam going up the back. I've got my sweater turned right side in right now. But what I wanted to show you was I seamed the sleeve exactly the same way that I did the back. And then I stitched from the cuff all the way to the underarm and all the way down to the hem. All right. Then at the very end, after I had both sleeves and everything on, I was realizing that this front here was rolling really, really far in. Let me show you what I did. This is up at the neck, right up here, and I'll show you. You see how pretty that looks? All that is the inside being folded to the outside by about 5 stitches and then sewn down. Just with whatever stitch makes you happy. It helps to keep the front from rolling in too much. Now, this has not been blocked yet. I'm not in a position to block it because, well, I'm not home in my studio. I finished this up when I was out camping, and I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with, and leave me comments with questions on the video, and I will get back to them as soon as I have an opportunity to get back to them. Take care, guys. Remember, do something creative, take care of yourself, and be kind to others. And we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.